This video is going to show you Solar Master Nightfall getting Platinum rank on the inside Terminus this week. The Master Nightfall difficulty is 1610 in power. For those that just want to see the run and skip the timestamp so that I can show you the modifiers, etc. I'll just quickly talk about the Nightfall modifiers, right? Because it is an important thing. The usual spiel of modifiers is on, so empath, champions are barrier unstoppable, attrition, equipment locked, match game, champions mob. Shielded foes are arc and void, but it's not, it's just void in our case, so just spec for void. Lightning crystals and acute void burn. So the daily modifier, there are 3 nightfalls per week. There is not just one nightfall, there are 3 nightfalls per week on a daily reset. Every day it's a different nightfall. It's the same nightfall inside Terminus, but it's got a daily modifier that impacts how you play massively. Lightning crystals is on today. I didn't even know it was. I just got finished on my last character level and I was wanting to do a solo nightfall and it happened to be lightning crystals on, which I was surprised, but it didn't matter because attrition is on. Attrition states regeneration is greatly impaired. So these two mods are fighting against each other. This gives you ability energy, this takes away. This gives it, this takes away. It ends up being that you don't get as many lightning grains as many storm grains as you would hope because of attrition. So just bear that in mind. Right, that's why the ability regen's not the same as what you would think. Obviously spec for void because it's acute void burn. So the build, we're on Striker Titan of course, Thundercrash, the usual Arc 3.0 build, so I'll just rhyme it off. Thruster Dodge, Seismic Strike, Storm Grenade, Aspects are Knockout, Touch of Thunder. Fragments are Spark of Shock, Magnitude, Recharge, Spark of Ions. If you want to run Spark of Resistance you can, I didn't feel as though I needed it. Recharge are preferred. If you want to use Spark of Resistance, go ahead. Weapons are exotic grenade launcher Witherhoard, under your skin for barrier bow. Barrier weapons are bow or pulse, so pick one of those. I recommend the bow. Bow's better than a pulse in my eyes. Obviously you've got other intrinsic weapons, but we're sticking with exotic grenade launcher Witherhoard. A couple of reasons why in the run, because I want to show a couple of mods off and stuff. Heavy, just pick a void heavy. What's good to you? I recommend either a machine gun or a rocket or a linear. Machine gun if you're underleveled and struggling to capture plates. Rocket if you just fancy it and you've got a well-rolled one. Or Taipan probably is the best in slot, I think. Like a good void linear, shall we say, any void linear. The build itself is a Heart of Inmost Light. So as I said, it's the same build as basically the same Storm Grenade that we were running last season because it didn't get touched. Armor mods, I'll just spill them off. There'll be more information about all this in the run. Helmet, Ashes to Assets, High Energy Fire. Piece and Bowstring, Unstoppable Grenade Launcher on the gauntlets. Chestplate has arc damage resistance and a stat increase just to meet the requirements of resilience because I'm running a lot of mods, hefty mods, and I'm having to sacrifice stat points. So just bear that in mind, which I'm going to come to in a minute. Shield break charge as well. There's a couple of shields on, so why not? Counter charge. When you stun a champion, you get charge of light. This is a big one. So obviously you can spec a lot of stuff into that. I've got high energy fire. And then on the class piece, I've got Weaken and Clear and Solo Operative. The best 2 solo perks probably at the minute to have, just about, right? Now, this armor piece is Artifice armor. I understand there's a lot of chat at the minute about it being bugged, that you can't put the mod on the class piece or something, and it has to be Artifice armor. Now, I didn't really notice any of that because I've been running. I always run Artifice armor, especially class piece. Always do. There's no reason not to if you've got it. But a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't run these mods that you're on about." Well, I've checked on mine, and you can. I can. This is a Dream and City piece. I can put these mods on. I don't see the issue. Let's have a look at another one. This one was Age of Triumph or whatever, the summer event, whatever that's called. This is I've got the mods on. So some people it's bugged for, I guess. Some people it isn't. Maybe try resetting your artifact and pick up all the mods again and try something like that. I don't know. But for me, the mods work perfectly fine on any piece. Doesn't have to be Artifice. So just thought I'd point that out. But anyways, that's the setup that I'm using. So as soon as we start the Nightfall, you want to instantly summon your Sparrow and get to the starting section as soon as possible. The reason for that is that the quicker you are getting here, the chances that you have of skipping these champs. So basically, because you've went so fast, if you do it like this, no champs, no enemies will spawn here. which means they will not be considered for platinum rating, which means we have technically skipped them, but we're still going to get platinum guaranteed as long as we kill all of the champions from this, you know, that we encounter from now on. Right, but if you was too slow and they spawned, you've got to kill them for platinum. They're then considered for platinum rating if that happens. So this first section, you want to try and play as aggressive as you can. Obviously I'm on a Titan, so it's not too bad to do that. The reason why is because you want to aggro that Colossus, the barrier, over the other side. If that doesn't happen, the barrier is actually going to de-aggro behind the wall. You can't see him from here, but he goes. It's where the exit is basically. He'll go towards the exit, and it means you've got to take out all these adds and all that stuff. I mean, you're probably gonna have to take them out anyways if you're really low in power, which people are mid 1580s. That's the average power level across most people I see. Right, so you're probably gonna have to clear these out and not be able to skip some. I was able to skip some just because. Well, I'm on Arc 3.0 and my power levels, I am under leveled, but not too much. It's not like it's a Grandmaster this. I wouldn't put it in the same ballpark as a Grandmaster. I would put it down as a medium difficulty Nightfall right now. Maybe not even that, maybe even less than that. So with this plate section here, you want to try and clear out all the adds on each wave. There's 2 mini waves, right? So you need to follow up with a Storm Grenade and a Witherhoard. On the second mini wave, if you like, there's 2 Unstoppables. Make sure that you stun them. Now with Unstoppable Grenade, with the Unstoppable shot for grenade launchers, if you noticed on the left hand side, it's a 3-second timer when you swap to it. So think of it as a hot swap mod. You can't run around just like with Witherhoard or any GL and expect it to stop champs. Your timer will have run out. So just be aware of that. It doesn't work like any other sort of unstoppable champ mod. It's a time thing. The best protocol is always run around with your energy weapon. When you're about to confront a champ or especially your unstoppable, whip out the GL. Then you'll stun them. You'll have no issues with stunning them. Because if you try and use it and you haven't stunned them and then you do a second with a hard shot, I've noticed they don't stun on the second, even though you've like sort of used Unstoppable Grenade Launcher correctly the second time, but you didn't use it the first time properly. And Witherhoard's obviously a funky weapon, so you got to just make sure you play like that. Always just swap to it as when you're ready to do, when you're ready for the shot. So this is your major room, right? So you need to learn this room and learn how to play it for when Grandmaster comes. Now, most people will be accustomed to this because this was actually the first ever Grandmaster to be when they came out in Shadowkeep. This was the first Grandmaster that ever came up. So people who are accustomed to Grandmasters will know all the enemy spawns, they're bound to, and all the champ spawns, etc. So your goal there is to take out the barrier and all the adds. Do not go to where the boss is. If you do that, you will actually spawn an extra wave of adds while you're dealing with the barrier. So clear out adds. It's step by step this. Because you can actually steamroll the room where you can spawn in everything at once. If you actually kill unstoppable champions, you can get barriers spawning behind you and all this stuff. You don't want to be doing that. Unless you know what you're doing. So right now what I'm doing, I'm trying to do some spawn killing of the adds from the portals. But this is where you're going to fight from. And this is where you would fight from on a GM. I'm kind of playing it. I'm not playing it like a GM, but I'm standing in the right spots that you would stand in when you were playing a GM. On GM difficulty for this. So you would stand back here. And people are going to be unleveled anyways. And you would let the barrier push. Now the barrier didn't push. Very strange. Generally the barrier will actually jump down all them like steps to where the Vex fluid is. Didn't do that this time. That was strange. Maybe because I actually spawn killed a couple of the adds from the portal, it de-aggroed the champ a little bit. Because champs can be less confident if there's less adds alive, if you didn't know. They're more likely to push if there's more adds up. And that is a behavior pattern of a lot of ultras. And the barrier champs share that behavior pattern. So that's why he didn't push. Now watching it back, because if I hadn't killed any adds, he definitely would have pushed. So there's a difference. The snipers are important. You take out, obviously. They do solar, so it's not too much of a problem. Void acute burns on. Nothing does void in this apart from really the boss. Yeah, so Void, don't worry about Void or Cube Burn for a while. Take the Unstoppable out last. So you need to, this rule of thumb, especially when you're in a fight team, you're trying to carry 2 others and you're pretty good, or you know, you, don't let people kill the Unstoppable first. Always last. It's the same on the next phase, because the Unstoppable champion spawns the barrier that I'm approaching now. So what can happen is the ads can ambush you if you instantly spawn kill an Unstoppable while there's ads alive on that island. While you're fighting on the island, the barrier that you see here can shoot over towards you and kill you, and all the ads can push the the cleavers, the gladiators and stuff. So only deal with the unstop. The Unstoppables are the key to just not deal with them until the very end of each phase. So it's the same thing on the next phase. Obviously, talking about the mods a little bit. So we've got Weaken Clear on, which I've been told or I've heard that it's 15% debuff, weakens enemies, and Operative, the Operative solo mod is 15% buff, but it's a global buff and it's stacked with other buffs. So it'll stack with Well Radiance, Weapons of Light, and all this stuff. So whenever you're playing solo, it's going to be the go-to mod to use. Right? Solo content is arguably going to be easier than last season. It might not be as easy as Season of the Haunted, because that was like literally ridiculous. But it's going to be somewhere close to that. So solo play is going to be easier than what it was last season. Right? Not to say that last season was super hard, because we had our 3.0 and stuff. But at least you had movement and stuff to consider, and you've got a 15% damage bonus for free that is stackable with everything. So anytime you're soloing anything now, you should always have this solo mod on. The problem with running double seasonal mods on your class piece, you saw it's 5 a piece. At the start of the video, it's 5 a piece, so that means it's 10. It means your build crafting slowly gets destroyed. Plus, Unstoppable Grenade Launcher is 7. I can understand why it's high, but 7's a bit steep. But it means, you know, things start to get a little worse, and this, that, and the other. But that's the way they sort of have always done these seasonal mods. It's just a little annoying how high energy they all are. It's still worth it though. I'd still rather spend 7 energy rather than using a hand cannon, double primary. Right? So it's still totally worth it, especially when there's Unstoppables. So again, we've left the Unstoppable to the end, right? To sort of stop the Unstoppable from chasing you. If you stand around here, the Unstop generally doesn't push up here. You'll just stand in that middle island for some reason. Now we've picked up the orb that the Unstoppable drops. The key is to drop the orb, leave the orb, and get this wave of enemies. You'll get a wave of enemies here. You want to take your time to deal with these. This is your safe zone back here. I messed my nade up there, hit a bit of a box or something. But this is where you generally would stay at the harder difficulties. And you can have Witherhoard pools, and sort of damage like that. Obviously Witherhoard got nerfed on that particular section for its damage, its Taken portal thing. Now I know I've got a lot of stuff going on with buffs and debuffs, but honestly I haven't found it to be a problem to me at all. If anything, Witherhoard's probably one of the strongest options this season, because it's a special weapon. It's going to activate Bridge and Clear a lot. That means you can run a linear fusion rifle. If you put Anarchy on, you can't run a linear fusion rifle for obvious reasons, right? So to me, Witherhoard's like one of the best options, if not the best. Like one of the best options, hands down. We haven't seen everything yet, and I know they have, you know, adjusted it, but they didn't adjust anything else about it. They just put down its time, its duration, which ultimately will affect its damage, the Taken portals. But honestly, you sticking enemies. I've always played like that with Witherhoard. You focus on the stick. Obviously, you can stick and then have a portal on the floor. Right, but for the most part, that's very novel. You want to get your stick and then focus on your heavy damage. That's better rather than stick, reload, put a portal on the floor, then switch to heavy. No, just stick, switch to heavy, and then melt a champ. Don't worry about putting taken. What you need to think about is the taken portal is now for ad clear. You're just using that on ads. You never use that on a boss. That's just for like little ads, like Thrall and stuff like what I'm fighting now, and goblins. Whereas the stick is for DPS, and then you switch to your heavy to maximize it. Pretty straightforward that room though, as you can see. As long as you don't take the unstoppables, you won't get pinched, you won't get ambushed by enemies both sides. It means one side of the room's always clear. So that is the golden rule when you're doing Grandmaster on this difficulty as well. Or if you're doing Master underleveled. You can see I'm not getting this much storm grenades as I should be. Again, it's not quite, I mean, my stats aren't the best because as I said, I've already said that my stats are throttled a little bit by mods and stuff. But it's definitely impaired. The storm grenade isn't charging as fast because regeneration is impaired, but it's also, it would have even been slower than this if it wasn't for lightning crystals. So this would have been even worse on another day. I didn't know lightning crystals was up today. I just happened to be finished or leveling on all my characters pinnacle wise. So that was my plan. After I've done that, then obviously do a solo. So it's going to be worse is what I'm trying to tell you. Try and tag these enemies, the Hydra and stuff, for extra points. Yeah, so after today's reset, the solo will be worse. So if you are looking to solo this, try and do this in this couple of hours that you have left in this reset. Depending on when you're watching, it just depends. So the plate mechanic with inside Terminus, you need to be able to have a good idea of how to control these plates. As soon as it adds steps on your plate, it goes red. The problem with that is more ads will be spawning as you're dealing with that. Now the first plate's free. It's free to sort of collect, providing you sort of left and right. You understand that there's dogs left and right. There's the legionaries that come down the middle. You know, use Witherhoard for the dogs. Use a nade at the right time and stuff. And you're pretty much not a problem. Because what if they do get on the plate and you have to back off the plate? Eventually there'll be some more ads spawning. So it can be a vicious circle. So try and capture it on the first go if you can. But as I said, it shouldn't be a problem. If you wanted to as well, which to be honest I was gonna, but I didn't, you can use Fist of Havoc, a Roman server. There's no requirement really to use Thundercrash in this. Remember, you're not on Fallen Curious Star, you're on Heart of Inmost Light. Your T-Crash on Heart of Inmost Light doesn't do all that much damage. Alright, it doesn't, it's a good, but it's not like Curious Star damage. So if you went to Fist of Havoc, it's not like you're losing out too much. And you gain a benefit of having a Roman super. That means you can capture the plate easier. So the point of what I'm trying to say is, if you're having trouble capturing these plates, swap to maybe a Void Machine Gun and then have a Roman super on like Fist of Havoc, and you can have a super up for every plate and capture it like that. See what I'm doing damage to with this boss on the top of that block. Reason being is because you're less likely to get hit. You can get hit on the boss by the void attack that the boss does. Now don't step in that barely at all, especially if you're really low in level. I nearly got killed by a couple of times because I was tired and being leveling. So you know what you expect leveling, you know, on this game and stuff. So there was a couple of times I did get caught by it, but I'm fully aware of where you stand and where you don't with this boss. I've soloed this Nightfall many times on all sorts of different difficulties, different ways, different variations, all different classes. There's multiple ways, so I'm very well experienced with it. So it's just a case of, I like to stand on the right hand side because the void waves, they don't track you here so much. Right, it's when you stand on the left and stuff. Now make sure that you clear out all ads before you get the boss to half HP, because the trigger at half HP is the free plate capture point. What you need to do is capture at least one of them and pick. Right, pick. It's important which plate you pick because The right side plate I believe to be the hardest plate to cap after the first one's done. So what I'm saying is the first plate you cap is a free plate. It's an easy one. So you're deciding which plate's easy, the first one. So pick the right one. Because there's a little strat to lure the ads over to get left and middle easier as well. So it's done on purpose to cap right first. I know people are going to think, well, what does it matter what plate you cap first? It does matter. It matters if you're under leveled and you're not experienced with it. Because if you do the easy route and like, oh, I'll just cap mid, I'm in mid on the first plate, you're digging yourself a hole, because them right plates are nightmare to cap second time round. Because you've got void backpacks, they push and stuff like that. It's not as, you can't round them up as easy if you haven't, if you've capped right first. Not if you've capped right first, sorry, if you've capped, you know, another side first. So taking right cap point out the equation is the goal, really. Now this is what we're saying, right? So now I've got middle and left to cap. Now I could use a super. I used a super before just as a panic one, just to make sure that I definitely got the plate. Because sometimes it can be the difference of, oh, I've got to back up at the last second, and then you lose all that progress and start again. And then you get more gladiators, and then you got more enemies. That's a thing as well that I'm missing out on, is that don't deal with the ads. Leave the ads up until you... Leave the ads up, then kill ads when you when you cap the plate, as you making progress. Because what that does is the enemy spawn won't start right away, but as it starts, you're probably halfway to 75% of the plate being captured. So if you can see that the ads are nowhere near, and I'm capping that plate with plenty of time. The key is to not kill the ads, the gladiator, not the gladiators, the void backpacks and the legionaries in middle. Leave a certain amount of number of those up. 4 or 5 ads. I don't know the exact number, I can't mind. I do forget information at times. But it's 2 backpacks. I would say 2 backpacks, 2 legionaries. Leave that amount of enemies up, 4 to 5 enemies. Lure them over to the right hand side, then you can cap middle and left easier. I done left first, because then there's all that time for them to jump over, and they're so slow at doing that. But that's giving you so much more time to cap the plate. Even though it might be 5 seconds, 5 seconds is a huge deal in this for cap and plate. Because once the gladiators and stuff get close, and you haven't done all this optimization with controlling the enemies and stuff, right, they're going to melt you in 2 swings. 2 swings they'll kill you, definitely. Even 1 swing if you're low enough. Because empath's on and you are under leveled, you take increased damage from melee style enemies, right? And that's all they do. So you've really got to, like, especially when you're doing your Nightfall solos day 1, day 2s, you've really got to know what you're doing. Exactly. Everything. And the variations of if I do this route or if I do that route, what's everything, how would it react to things. Obviously make sure you've got a grenade saved. Use heavy if you must to melt them down. And look, we've melted them all down. The enemy spawns are taking ages. They're starting to come out just now, but like I say, I've already got just about captured the player anyways. So you can see how this is how you would play it, and you would definitely play it like this obviously in Grandmaster. You have to at that point. Once you've capped all 3 plates, the boss comes back out, and then it's just you and the boss and the ads. So with Witherhoard and how it works, obviously, it's just sort of incentivizes you to sort of do your damage and just keep rotating left and right. Now I got caught by the void stuff a couple of times there, so try to be always in the air. Don't always like land where the void stuff is. But it's a case of just keep debuffing, because you're going to debuff the boss. So the ideal thing is to debuff, get Witherhoard on there, and then do a bit of heavy here and there, but don't overcommit to damage. So I'm starting to, if I've done any more damage, I'm starting to overcommit, because there's loads of enemies coming out, and they will do for each wave. But here's the thing, you're multitasking with Witherhoard, because you're doing massive damage with that, you're debuffing all the enemies, whilst doing a storm grenade as well. So you just rotate left and right. This is how you play this. You never go in middle, only for ammo and only when you can. Which on this phase you can't really. When you're at the back end of the fight, there's constant enemies. But you should have filled up before this. Right, so when you're capping the plates, you're sort of thinking ahead, always thinking ahead, right, I'll pick up that brick now because I can't pick it up later. And it would be a bit of a disaster if I was on this phase with no Witherhoard at all. And Witherhoard's ammo, obviously, as we know, it goes a long way. So even if it's only 10 shots, that's a lot of damage within that 10 shots. And it'll last you a bit. So you just always to think, obviously, ahead of yourself. I've got T-Crash on, so that's not useful for me right now because I could T-Crash, right? But it might not kill the boss. But after the T-Crash is done, the boss could stomp me and kill me. So only T-Crash if you know you're going to kill the boss. I done it here just to clear out some of these ads. I got a well, if you're not seeing that, because I was weak and I didn't want to keep going on with my HP being low. But that's basically the fight for this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.